Hey, do you want to write and self-publish a book? Then keep watching. Alright, I've published 2 books so far, one last year and one earlier this year, and I wanted to share some of the knowledge that I gained in terms of how do you self-publish a book and is it really the right way to go. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about basically the ideation process or the actual publication or editing process, and I can tell you what I've learned along the way. So if you have any questions, please just let me know in the comments. The topic of this video is the ideation process. So if you're thinking about self-publishing, then I assume you already have some ideas about the potential topic or topics that you want to write about. It's usually best to write about topics that you know a lot about, or you have like a really strong interest in it, because you don't want to lose interest in the writing process, because then it's almost definite that your audience will lose interest in the reading process. Because if you're not excited to write it, then the audience likely won't be as excited to read it. So I'd say the first step is to pick 2 or 3 topics that you want to write about and do some research to see if something similar already exists in the marketplace. If not, determine, is it because it's just a book that's not needed in the marketplace, or has nobody thought about this, and then you could fill that gap. If you do find several books in the marketplace on the topic, think about what are they doing right and what can you possibly help improve on. So how are you going to stand out and how are you going to make your book different? Okay, so I had 2 questions from the comments from a previous video from Aniket Kumar, who asked, I need some ideas on how to begin. Can you please upload an article or document? Yes, I will be summarizing the videos that I'm creating here into a blog at the end of this process. And Alec also asked, I want to know how to begin myself. The best way to begin is, like I mentioned, is choose your topic or topics and then narrow down to that one idea that you simply are super excited to write about, and start writing an outline. I'll talk more about the outlining and the first draft in the next video. I'd like to talk about writing the outline and first draft of your book. I think this is where the fun really begins, because now that you've selected the topic that you want to write about, it's really time to write a high-level outline of what are the topics within that topic, basically the subtopics that you'd like to cover. So these could be, if you think about a nonfiction book, these could be the chapters, or even the fiction book. These are the chapters that are going to be in your book. The next step is to get to a more detailed, so you have the skeleton and then you are adding basically some meat on the bones. So you're adding some detail to that high level outline, and you're putting in sub-bullets of what do you think goes under chapter 1 and what are the kind of points that you want to cover. The next step after this is get as many people as you can. I mean, 4 to 5 people is probably enough, but get as many people as you can to review your detailed outline. Either, read it to them, talk about what you want to cover in that book, or give them the outline and have them go and review it, just so they can get a sense for what are you writing about and is there something that you might be missing that you just didn't think about. Also, doing some research helps. Google the topic, see if something else pops up in your head that you're like, oh, I missed this, so you can include that in. The step after this is you're basically ready to start writing. So you have this detailed outline, and now you're adding, the hair and the skin to the meat on the bones. And one thing to keep in mind is that the draft doesn't have to be perfect, right? You're just putting words on paper. So what helped me is if you set a daily word count goal or a daily page count goal. So you say, I need to get 5 pages done today, every day. That's actually going to keep you moving. And setting a target date, give yourself a month or 2 and say, I want to be done with my first draft by this date, depending on the length of the book. Obviously you might need more time if it's a much more involved book with research and stuff. All right. The 2 questions I'll answer today that came from the initial comments section of my first post on this topic. First one from Margarita Malaiva. She says, I'm not proficient at writing and have always felt like I had to be a great writer to start working on composing a book. Any advice on how to go around that? Now, I think that having a unique writing style can actually help you stand apart from other writers because it'll give you a unique voice. But if you think your writing skills are, really hard for others to read, or you think it'll take away from the book, then you can either hire a writing coach or get a really good editor slash ghostwriter to help you out so they can help you tell your story. Another question came from Rahul Biswas, and he asked, how much does it matter in terms of style and vocabulary if you're writing a technical book? Now, I think that style and vocabulary for a technical book is extremely important, because if you write material that's in a really dry or boring tone, then you'll definitely lose the reader, unless they just want that dry tone, which I don't know anybody who'd opt in to read dry writing. However, if you can get really creative and share your technical knowledge with the audience in a different way, in a unique or even a fun way, then that can really help you be successful.
So this video is about creating a KDP account and basically the appeal of self-publishing. So to start off with, KDP is Kindle Direct Publishing, and we'll walk through how to actually set up your account. Before we get into the actual creation of the account, I'll just spend a few minutes talking about why I chose to go the self-publishing route versus the working with a publisher. Basically, I don't like deadlines, and I like to have control. And this is two things that I found really, really advantageous of self-publishing. Because when you work with a publisher, you usually have to hit their deadlines. And I love deadlines as long as they're self-imposed, if that makes sense. So self-publishing is great for me because once the book goes live, right, once it's published, and I'll walk through that process in future videos, you don't have to worry about the book printing or shipping or quality control or even returns, because Amazon actually handles that process for you. So for me, the main thing that I had to work on was the marketing of the book and the sales, which I love, because who really better to talk about your book besides you, who actually wrote it? So you're the most passionate person about the topic, about the book, because you wrote it. So it's easier for you to go out there and sell it. All right, in this video, I'll answer questions from Dalton Ruhr. He's at ClickDork. This question came in from Twitter. He asks, did you work with an editor? No, I didn't. Have you found that you're making money on the books, or was it really a matter of exposure / credibility? I did make some money from book sales, but that really wasn't the main goal both times. I simply wanted to share what I've been learning with others, and I thought that having a book out there would just be a really cool thing. Did you learn more about the subject as a result of writing about it? Absolutely, I did. I think, especially when you're trying to put a good quality book out there, you tend to spend a lot more time researching the topic and just preparing. Did you manage to set deadlines for yourself and force yourself to stick to them, or did you just write part-time between other activities? So the balance of the deadlines was a tricky part for self-publishing because, as I mentioned, you basically have to hold yourself accountable. And what helped me personally is I publicly announced, for example, this book is going to be live in November 2019, right? That kind of gets me more accountability because now I've told others I'm going to do it, so I was just more likely to do it. You can also pre-sell your book, which can give you more of a deadline because people are paying money for it, and it's actually a good motivator for you to continue writing because you know some people have already purchased the book and they're waiting for it to come out. All right, now let's go ahead and get into how do we create an account. Okay, so account creation is the same as creating an account for Amazon.com, right? But you basically go to kdp.amazon.com, and I'll walk you through what they call the bookshelf. This is what the bookshelf looks like, right? I have my books here, my Disruptors, Data Science Leaders, and it tells you the Kindle and the paperback are live, and then I have the Journey to Data Scientist, and that's live, and you could see when these were last updated because, you know, if you have any spelling mistakes that somebody else finds for you or you come across, then you can go ahead and re-upload the manuscript by yourself, which gives you a lot of power and flexibility to continuously make updates as you find them. Okay, so let's walk through how you would set up your book. Basically, you click either New the little plus sign here, new Kindle, ebook, or paperback. Let's go ahead and click on the paperback, and it asks you to sign in, which it remembers my password. There we go. All right. Few questions here. It asks what language was the primary language. For me, it was English. You enter the book title. You can have a subtitle, which is optional. Then if you're writing a series, this is where you can indicate, this is part of series 1. Or if you have various editions, you can say this is edition 2 of the book. Author, so this is the primary author or contributor. This is where you put your name. And then if you're working with somebody, like a co-author, you can add several contributors or co-authors down there. The description, basically, it's the reader's first experience with your content. It's very important. You try to make the description as intriguing and interesting as possible and really tell people what is your book about. Publishing rights, both of the books I published I owned the copyright, but you might be working on a public domain, then you would select this. And then keywords. This is really how people are going to find your book. So you can choose 7 keywords, and I would suggest that you use all 7 of them really wisely and think about how people would search for your type of book. And then categories. You need to categorize your book properly. I think mine were nonfiction biography type books. And why that matters is because Amazon ranks you within categories. So if you're in that category and your book is doing really well, then you can get like a new bestseller in category. That's how they give you the highest rated, those types of banners. And then you just signify if there's any adult content. I'll talk about future steps after, but it's basically uploading your content. So this is where you're going to, paperback content is where you will update your manuscript, and we'll get to the cover and things like that in future videos.
Let's talk about obtaining an ISBN. So what is an ISBN? It is the International Standard Book Number, and it's basically a unique numeric commercial book identifier, and publishers purchase ISBNs from affiliates of international ISBN agencies. You will basically need an ISBN for your book when you're publishing, and Amazon can provide you with a free ISBN, but you have to agree that you'll only sell the book with Amazon. They do have this expanded distribution that they'll help you sell in other locations as well, but basically you would have to go through them. I've personally used Amazon's ISBN both times for both of my books, just because I knew I wanted to sell on Amazon to begin with, and I buy everything in my life from Amazon, so I'm very bullish on the company. Another thing I'll talk about is selecting the book size. So you can select book sizes. Both of mine that I chose was 6 inches by 9 inches, which is the standard book sizing for nonfiction books. But you can do some research, you can be really, really flexible on what type of book size you go with. In terms of editing, I actually ended up hiring an editor on Fiverr so that I could make sure everything flowed well, and, they can catch any last minute mistakes like typos or, some grammatical errors. And it also helped when I reviewed the book for myself. Basically, I printed an author copy of the book, and I gave a copy to a couple of friends just so they can read through it, and that actually really helped me because they were able to catch things that I didn't, because I've been looking at this book forever, and you tend to skim over things that you've read over and over again, so you're less likely to catch your own mistakes. Interior formatting, I personally think that's extremely important. It's basically how your book looks on the inside. This is important for paperback as well as the Kindle or ebook version. And again, I hired somebody that it didn't cost much, but I found somebody on Fiverr who did a complete overhaul of my interior formatting. They helped me set up the table of contents and headers. It's things that I could figure out and do it on my own, but it just saved a lot of time and effort by hiring somebody. Selecting the paper color. Okay, so Amazon basically provides you 2 options. You can have, for your interior paper for printing, you can have white or you can have cream. They say that cream is easier on the eyes for the reader, but honestly it doesn't look that great. So I ordered 2 copies and I ended up using the white just because it looks a lot crisper and nicer. It's basically what I'm used to seeing. Cover design, you can design your own cover. I did that for my second book, The Disruptors, and I paid somebody to design my first book, Journey to Data Scientist, and I'm happy with both. I think going forward I'll probably design my own covers because it gives me the opportunity to put everything exactly where I want it. But if you're not comfortable or if you're not just into designing, you can totally outsource that and hire somebody either on Fiverr or whatever. Okay, so one thing I didn't do for my first book that I did do for my second book, which I think worked, is testimonials. Basically, these are reviews of people, asking people to read your book before it gets published and then putting those reviews into your book. I think that really helps, first, to get your book reviewed and to get a sense of what are people really thinking about it. But second, once a person, picks up your book or gets your book, they can read through the reviews or the testimonials, and it kind of sets the stage, especially if the testimonials are good, right? I don't know who put a bad testimonial in their book. So it sets the stage and it gets the reader excited about reading it. Another thing that I actually didn't do for my first book that I did do for my second book is asking somebody else to write a foreword. For the Disruptors, Tom Davenport actually wrote the foreword, and I was extremely excited that he said yes, and I think it adds a ton of credibility to a book if you can get somebody else to write the foreword, especially somebody who's well known in the industry. The next step is to submit your book for KDP review. What does that mean? Basically, you've uploaded your PDF of your manuscript, you've uploaded your PDF of your cover for your both paperback and your Kindle versions, and then you click submit for review. And what happens then is KDP runs a process where they do like a quality check to make sure that the words aren't running off the page, there's enough of a margin, the cover or the pictures inside of the book are adequate resolution, they're not blurry. And it takes about 12 to 24 hours, although I think they say it takes longer. It didn't take that long for me to get a review, and the first time I submitted it, there were some issues because I did have a few images going into the margin, and they don't like that because, once it prints and they cut the book, it might not print as well. Okay, once the review is complete, you can actually order an author copy of the book. So you can, have it in hand to review before it goes to publishing. And it's always good to review each page, just flip through it. They also have an online version where you can preview each page right on the screen, so you don't have to wait for them to actually ship you the book. And you can also see how it looks on different devices if you're going the ebook version, so you could see, how would this look format-wise on a phone or on a tablet or on my computer. All right, another fun step here is setting the price for the paperback and for the Kindle version. You can play with the pricing calculator. They have that readily available online. You can basically type in the number of pages that your book has, the size of the book, and then the price that you want to charge, and then they'll give you an estimate royalty amount of what you can make on each book, depending on the price you set. So one thing I'll note is that they do have very different pricing for black and white paperback printing versus color. And pricing the book for color was super expensive, so I've actually decided to just go black and white. Otherwise, the book would be like $60 in order for me to make a profit. It was some really insane price. All right, now that you've set the price, you uploaded everything's approved, you're ready for publication. Amazon will tell you that your book will be live between 24 to 48 hours. That's where they do their final check. And now the hard work paid off and you're ready to publish, and this is where the excitement comes in, where you can, market and start selling your book. And my advice is that you need to start talking about your book and marketing it the day that you decide you're going to write it. Because once you get your audience or your community involved in the process, you'll get several ideas of how to improve the book. You'll know what exactly people are looking for. Plus, once you actually launch your publication, people have already heard of it, and maybe some of them have been waiting for your book to come out, so they're much more likely to buy than if you've been silent for a year, not talking about it, and then you just launch a book. And yeah, you might get sales, but I think your chances are higher if you've been already talking about the book on an ongoing basis. All right, well, I hope this helps, and best of luck on your self-publishing journey.